Virtus Pro's turn to ban.
And the day rolls on as we move ahead into the second half of our matches for the day. TongFu taking on Virtus Pro. Now, Virtus Pro, well, they're the lone hope coming from the CIS, coming out of Russia, taking on TongFu. We already saw it action once today. And not going to lie, so far, if you've been hanging out on the stream, you know the games have been fun. They've been entertaining. Certainly been interesting, but not exactly the closest affairs throughout the front stretch of the day's broadcast. And TongFu certainly a part of that. The way they performed earlier today makes me think that we could be in real danger of another series like that unless Virtus Pro is quick to get into form. VP, a team that whenever they look good, is as good as anyone, but they have had some major struggles with consistency, especially on land. So we'll see if they're going to be able to show us the Virtus Pro ultra-aggressive style we all know and love, or if TongFu is just going to be able to add another kill to the long list of teams that have fallen before their own style of aggression. If you're just tuning in, I'm AC, your broadcaster, joined by Draskell, of course, for the analysis and insight. But tell you what, man, TongFu looked damn good, and they certainly proved that they're a name that deserves to be in the discussion in terms of top 8 or even beyond.
Absolutely. TongFu, for me, is definitely a top 8 team. I don't really think... I mean, between TongFu, DK, IG, LGD China, and LGD Int, those are all teams that you would imagine to place in top 8, but TongFu especially recently has been on the up and up. Like we mentioned when we saw them actually play against Orange, LGD Int said themselves, this team has gotten significantly better in the last couple of months. So that's something that everyone's pretty much going to have to work out for, or look out for. But for me, TongFu's kind of the dark horse for this entire tournament right now. People realize that they're strong, but I don't think they realize quite how good they are, especially considering their performance was about on par, if not even better, than what DK put on Dignitas. And I consider Orange to be maybe considered slightly higher tier than Dignitas right now anyway. So again, TongFu for me coming into this best of 2, a little bit of the favorite, and they're starting off really strong by going with the Bane and the Alchemist. Bane fantastic against the Lifestealer, and then Alchemist, of course, being kind of the we can do whatever we want with him kind of hero, most likely going to be going mid. So VP, they have that one hero that can pretty much be anywhere, allows you to lifesteal or bomb wherever you want, which is definitely going to be nice. But it also leaves the lanes super wide open for VP. TongFu, they probably already have their mid, but it could easily be a farming Alchemist as well.
One thing that really interests me about this matchup, and coming in, and it's kind of a tale of two worlds, really. TongFu, as you had mentioned, is just one of those teams that's peaking at the right time. And so often, when you're talking these big tournaments, I mean, of course, all of these teams involved in tournaments all throughout the year, but when you're talking the Big Daddy, when you're talking at something like the International, the biggest, not just this year, but in the history of the entire industry, peaking at the right time is as valuable as almost anything else. Virtus Pro has kind of been on the other side of things. For a while there, they were a team that I always described as quietly always winning. They just quietly placed in the top 3 or even better in almost every tournament they entered. They seemed like coming in the DreamHack, where you and I had a chance to broadcast them. They were considered a team that was looking to have a breakout moment, and many, including myself and yourself, thought that that might have been when they had a time to shine, and it just didn't materialize. They have just, and since then, they've really struggled to have that same sort of consistent success, and to a sense, it's because people are figuring them out, and that's kind of what I'm driving at here. TongFu and Virtus Pro both tend to confound their enemy when they have success. It's because their execution in terms of early aggression, in terms of roaming, in terms of post-laning phase activity, that's where they tend to always find it. They're not necessarily the most mechanically, I mean, of course, they're good mechanically, but they're not like a grinded-out team like an Alliance would be, as an example. They tend to really feed on momentum. So we have two teams, one that's on the up and up, one that's kind of been on the downslope, both of which that like to play aggressive, and you can't help but think it's going to be almost like an Old West duel. Who can pull the trigger first and get ahead that way, and then just try to snowball it after that. But nonetheless, we can see, as you said, aggressive potential out of everyone. Storm Spirit will be picked up by TongFu. Lifestealer and Nature's Prophet, the front two from VP. Now, the one thing that does kind of stand out, Nature's Prophet, as good as the hero can be, early on as he's trying to get his momentum, get up a Midas, a Shadow Blade, the two most common items you'll ever see on the hero, until he gets those two items up, he can feel at times like a bit of dead weight if he's not being used in every single open opportunity. So Virtus Pro, definitely, especially in conjunction with a Lifestealer who benefits so much from the global presence that a Prophet gives you, they're going to have to make sure they capitalize on any openings TongFu gives them. But then again, based on what we saw, TongFu doesn't exactly leave you a lot of openings to begin with.
And that's going to be a problem because they have a Storm, which is known for being an insanely aggressive hero anyway. So if they're going to put him mid, he's likely going to be against the puck, which honestly for Storm, it's not horrible, but the puck definitely has the advantage. But they're also making the sacrifice in the side of VP of giving the Alchemist a free farm safe lane. So after they saw the Nature's Prophet pick, they're like, well, that's probably going to be the offlaner. So all we're going to do is instead of putting the Alchemist mid, we're going to pick another mid who has the potential to initiate.
Right.
But they didn't want a puck because they needed another carry-esque hero. And Storm is kind of a semi-carry, not a total hard carry, but his map presence is going to be a little bit better than probably most other mids would be at the later stage in the game. But for Virtus Pro, it's all about mid early game aggression, like you were mentioning earlier. They're going to get their hands on a puck, another great vessel for Lifestealer, and a Disruptor who is amazing against TongFu's team, just in general. Static Storm, amazing against Darkseer, Bane, and Storm. Just being able to glimpse. Good luck ever fiend scripting anybody with a Disruptor on the other team, because Glimpse is 1800 range at level 4, which means that no matter where you are, it's going to get canceled.
Absolutely.
So, I do love that pick quite a bit. And one more thing that I do want to add is just how flexible these teams are becoming. And just seeing that Alchemist, and it was very easy to assume that it would be mid. And then as soon as they realize, hey, free safe lane, we'll just switch it. It's just small things like that that bring a team from like pretty good tier to just TongFu tier, we'll call it.
TongFu tier, I like that. That's especially if they continue to win, I believe it's going to be even more apt a team. And I think it's very applicable. Like you said, a team that's just in that transition period of going from being a really good team that everyone knew is really good to, oh, this team might win something very big really soon. And like you said, a dark horse, and I believe that in the true sense of the word. Not a dark horse for the top 8, a dark horse to come out of the winner's bracket and make some noise there as well. But anyway, still waiting on our last pickups to round out the lineups. I love the points you made about Disruptor, especially given the way TongFu's going to want to fight these fights. They're going to want Alchemist up front, Storm initiating on a single target, and Darkseer doing what he does, grouping everyone up. Having the Disruptor is just a way to confound that, a way that when TongFu does commit, begins to roll their heroes into that position, you have a way to try and just live up to his namesake, disrupt whatever chain of initiation they have, and give your own team, which has plenty of reach and plenty of kill potential on its own, to counter-initiate. So TongFu, when you look at the lanes, I'm right there with you. Silencer is about as good a counter pick as they possibly could have grabbed, because now that counter-initiation can be counter-initiated upon. TongFu, I'll tell you what, man, they have just, not just in the game, but this is the what third straight draft we've seen where at the end both of us look at it and go, wow, that's just a really good draft.
Honestly, the Silencer for me was a necessity. They absolutely needed it, because the problem that they were going to run into is, say Mu goes in, right? He's playing Storm Spirit. He initiates on the Disruptor because he doesn't want a Static Storm to come out. Well, the puck can counter-initiate on him. And Storm is the only person on his team who can really start fights out of the Darkseer surging somebody. So if he has to go in first and put himself in harm's way, that's not the ideal way to play Storm. So the way to compensate is to get a support that can just silence everyone at the same time when you go in. You get the free initiation, and you don't have to worry about basically anything coming out from the other team for at the very least 4 seconds, because that's, or actually, yeah, it's 4 at level 1 for Global Silence. So I do love that quite a bit. The other nice thing about it is that since they know that there's not going to be any contention for the top lane, Silencer is not known for being necessarily a great tri-lane versus tri-lane hero or anything like that. He's good 1v1, but he is not good in a support role in that sense, and he needs levels very badly. So TongFu, they've picked a tad bit greedy here, but I think it's going to work out for them, just because VP are pretty much in the same exact shoes. And their supports, I mean, you have a Vengeful Spirit who is pretty good for roaming, but what is he really going to roam on besides the Storm?
Right. I'll tell you something else, just to build upon that, and why the Silencer pick is just, it's subtle things beyond just the big global silence. I really like the fact that he gives them, when you have a Silencer in a game, depending on if, sometimes Silencers just have really good games, start to rack up kills. And because of the way Last Word works, he can actually become a significant source, at least from a support role, a significant source of single target DPS if the Last Word is racking up his intelligence game. And I just really like the fact that it's like, that would be an added bonus if they get it, but given the utility he already has, it's just one other reason to really like this pick. So the lanes are taking shape. We'll take a look at who's going to be handling who. The Disruptor going to be handled by NS on the side of VP. We'll have Ill in the Storm range. who's decided to stick with that name, I think, forever. And good, because VP, these guys like to change their names every damn week, it seemed like. But Illidan will be playing on our Lifestealer. The Prophet going to be played by Kasai. We'll have Puck handled by Crazy, getting helped out here in mid by Ars Art so far, who's going to be handling the Venge. On the other side of the river, we got Hal farming up the Alchemist out of that safe lane. We're going to have King J playing on our Darkseer this time, taking a bit of abuse. Should be fine. He's actually going to turn and do a little bit of damage of his own. A little trade into the paint. Silencer will be handled by San Shing. The Bane going to be played by Banana. And in mid, we're going to have Mu playing on our Storm Spirit.
So for the lanes, VP definitely have the advantage in their safe lane because Disruptor against Darkseer is incredibly annoying. As long as you have a point and a glimpse in Kinetic Field, there's no way the Darkseer can really play aggressive, and he's already realized that King J is like, yep, I'm out of here. As soon as that Disruptor hits level 2, I actually can't go to the creep wave anymore, so he's just going to go ahead and run away. And Crazy getting enfeebled in mid, definitely not something he's going to be happy about. And Banana kind of compensating for the fact that Arzart was sitting there mid by running by and making sure that Crazy can't last hit for a while. But this lane in middle, it's basically the two initiators playing against each other, and Moo's actually doing an excellent job of pressuring, even though technically Puck should have the advantage here. He's not really using his phase shift at all. He's kind of just eating autos. So hopefully Crazy can pick up the slack a little bit and hopefully not get bullied too bad, because if the Storm just beats you in lane, it gets really scary for low HP heroes, even a Puck. You can just get forced out of the lane almost immediately.
And so far, things staying pretty quiet. We can see, though, the Lifestealer certainly happy. The state of things in 11 CS. Crazy sitting at 9, so he's not in too bad a shape. Like you said, taking a bit of damage, now beginning to show off his phase shift button. Mu right behind him, though, at 7 CS, so very early on. Taking a look at how he is putting points into Greevil's Greed, so not worried about Acid Spray. Definitely going with the hard farming build. We'll see if when he gets up to 875, if he wants that Ring of Health. He's got 900 on him now, hasn't bought it yet. And here in mid, we're going to have an attempt on Mu. Mu trying to make a run for it, eating some damage, and First Blood will be grabbed by Arzart. So Venge taking it away, but a very nice kill. And how many times have we seen it? If you're able to get early kills, even just one could be significant enough to derail a team's game plan that is predicated on a Storm Spirit. Just delay his level 6, allow your mid hero to bully him around a little bit more. Not the end of the world for Mu, but certainly a great start for Virtus Pro.
Absolutely, and also keep in mind, right now TongFu's map is completely barren of vision. They can't see anything. And VP just capitalized on that. They get a free rune because, of course, bottom, no one's going to be able to contest the rune spot. He gets an invis. I would say a little bit lucky, but hey, sometimes that stuff just kind of happens and you have to be prepared for it. They hadn't been able to see Arzart for some time, and NS is really the only one who has to be sitting down here anyway to prevent somebody from farming due to the whole glimpse thing that we talked about earlier. So great start for VP. Their Lifestealer is free farming, actually farming faster than the Alchemist in terms of flat CS, but we all know that Greevil's Greed is the great equalizer, and by equalizer I mean I just make way more money than you, even if I'm like 20 CS behind. So
Phase boots up on both carries, and at exactly the same time, the Alchemist and the Lifestealer. Very much a game that I would suspect that Alchemist is going to want to get up a Shadow Blade pretty quickly. Could end up going with a Battle Fury if he really wants to hard farm it, but I don't think it's really necessary. They have a team that with the Storm is going to be hitting his natural peak in the mid game, and no reason to waste that. No reason to just sit back and rely on him and the rest of his team whenever they really do need that additional damage, that extra little bit of lockdown to take fights against VP. VP, though, a team that's got, you know, that's kind of my big question at this point, is how hard are they going to farm the Lifestealer and the Nature's Prophet before they decide to start moving him around? Kasai, one of the best in the business, in my opinion, at playing an aggressive Prophet. He just has really good sense. I get the impression sometimes that he's thinking a little bit ahead of some of the rest of the players on his team at times, and just tends to always be in the right position. Seems like he's always where he needs to be, and VP says right now is when we're getting aggressive again, AC. They're going to move their way back into mid under cover of smoke, going to drop a ward on their way through. There is a little bit of help there from Mu hanging around the Roche Pit. That's Banana, and looks like they're just going to hang around and wait for an opportunity to present itself.
I think Mu is kind of onto this. He's doing some bottle crowing right now. Oh man, he's actually walking forward. This could be really, really bad, especially since Arzart is going to get right behind him.
Here we go. There it is. Magic Missile stuns him out. Waning Rift. And for the second time, they managed to pick him off. And this is just, I mean, and again, just knowing Virtus Pro and the style they play, this is the kind of success they have to have early to get them to play at their best. Being able to hold down the Storm, racking up kills, playing aggressive. Very much a team that I've always just had the feeling that they're having fun whenever they're getting kills, and when they're having fun, they tend to be winning games. 2-0 their lead.
Honestly, I'm really surprised that Mu fell for that. Even though they don't have any vision near the bottom ward or even in bottom lane at all, it's just pretty clear that the lane wasn't pulled because the creep wave would have just walked into the tower and there were no supports that were visible. So there's really only one place they can go. They're clearly not going to dual support top and try to go for a kill there because it doesn't make any sense. And Mu just getting caught out for the second time. They're capitalizing very well on the fact that Mu wasn't 6. I mean, once he does get level 6, it's a lot more difficult to actually kill him. But Crazy is also going a build where he's getting more points into Waning Rift. So once the coil and the rift actually lands, if you get an opening stun on the Storm, he could still die even after he gets his ultimate. So he needs to be very, very careful about how the rest of this game goes. And oh man, Banana, wrong place, wrong time, buddy.
Yeah, pre-runing, sometimes you just got to expect you might run into some traffic down in that corner of the river. Crazy not only gets the kill, he manages to get himself a double damage rune. It looks like they're going to try for a dive here. King J, sniffing it out, I do believe. And yeah, realizing, hey, I haven't seen them materialize yet. I will peace out and head to the house. 6.5 minutes in, 3 kills on the board, all of them going to the Russian All-Stars.
Radiant's middle tower
a really good start, actually. The support movement has been spot on. And how many times have we said it today, man? Supports are pretty much making or breaking every single best of 2 series that we've seen so far. But we can see Banana here, he's ancient stacking, so he's going to get some more farm for his Alchemist. He's only got 1 point into Acid Spray now, though, and he's maxing out Concoction. So eventually, they're going to be able to do that stack, and it's going to be quite a bit of change for him. But poor Mu, man, he's just sitting in the woods. He's stacking the large camp to be able to farm. This is when you know that your middle lane has not gone quite the way that you wanted it to.
Yeah. Now the Darkseer has to come over. Yeah. He's going to be careful. He's getting real low here. There you go. Manages to make it away safely. But how? At the very least, he's been left completely to his own devices. Grievel's Greed with 2 points into it. He did go ahead and take a point in Acid Spray after his ultimate, so not farming at absolute max efficiency. Nonetheless, sitting at 46, that's close enough to the lifestealer that Grievel's Greed will certainly be giving him most likely the GPM lead, and sure enough it is, but not by much, but hey, early on. All about the small margins. Both teams beginning to play a bit more defensive now. Virtus Pro grouped up in mid, and we can see that TongFu says, we've had enough of mid battles. How about we all just hang out in our own neck of the woods?
Yeah, I think it's safer for TongFu to play this passive. They really need the supports to get level 6. They need Fiend's Grip, absolutely, and they need the Global Silence, because once that combination is there, there's no way you can actually interrupt the Bane if the Global goes out, and the same can be said for the Storm, like we mentioned that before. But being able to get pretty much a full duration grip every single time, it's very similar to the Global Silence Sand King combos and stuff like that, just where you need that opening to channel an ability to make sure that it actually does something. So now TongFu pressuring top tier 1, gonna force Crazy up here, he's got a DD, and he actually does quite a bit of damage here.
Oh, he's gonna spin the coil on Hal. And it will be snapped. He's going to chase it down. The wall goes down. He's going to go for it and get it. He's going to end up trading himself. But all in all, I mean, I don't know. I actually don't know if that... It's one of those things I see it. It's like Crazy living up to his namesake. Trading himself for the carry. You're the mid. He was ahead. And I don't know. Just whatever. Fun Dota.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if I like that. Yeah. I don't know if I like going to that kill, because the thing is, we just talked about how the supports needed experience really badly. Well, that just gave Silencer a full level.
Right.
I mean, your mid just died. And it looks like Moo's showing off his regeneration rune here. Why not? But this is really interesting, because when those heroes get that kind of experience benefit, like King J too, I mean, he was there for it, but you give something like that to a Silencer, and you're going to get global silence once, and you're going to go, man, I really wish he wasn't level 6, and you're going to go, oh yeah, I kind of gave him, a level. So, we'll see.
Definitely agree. So far, the GPM going back and forth, net worth pretty tight, 4-1. I will check the gold graph coming up in just a moment. Looks like Virtus Pro wanting to make something happen in mid. There's the Midas done for Kasai now. Very, obviously, very important item. Comes out at a decent clip, all things considered. He's been kind of bouncing around a little bit. Bassy Midas at 10, not the most amazing farm on a Prophet, but at least going to keep him on track. Now, this is, again, with that hero, Virtus Pro is still going to need to continue to keep the pressure up, I do believe. I mean, it's one of those things, a team like TongFu, chances are they're going to outgrind you. They're not known as a grinding team, but they will find ways to catch themselves up in pure GPM, especially whenever they have an Alchemist on the team. So I still feel like as good a start as Virtus Pro has had, they really need to continue to go out of their way to make things happen, and finding a free kill on the Silencer, if he can get it. It's going to be close. Zip, there you go. That's certainly a nice little find hanging out on the steps.
Yeah, I mean, the rotation so far from Virtus Pro, they know exactly where to pressure. They're forcing Hao to farm in a very unsafe position where he can get TP'd on at any time. And he's very close to Shadowblade, actually, on top of the meantime. They also kill Mu again, so yeah. It's really rough right now for TongFu because their mid, honestly, he's not going to have really any impact. Even though CS is still okay, 3 deaths is making his farm not okay. And he needs to be able to get an item. He needs maybe something like an Orchid to be able to initiate on the Lifestealer or the Puck especially. There's not going to be any presence from the Storm, and that's something that they were really relying on to create space for the rest of the team.
We can see the Alchemist is very close to his Shadowblade. 1 or 2 CS more, and he will have it. They're reacting big time to bottom. That's going to be 2 more hooking up with the 2 already there, Shing and Ao. Not sure if they spotted it or if they just sniffed it out. Pull back just in the nick of time. Almost, well, not almost. There are 3 points into Glimpse now for Disruptor. The range on Glimpse at this point, once you get that 3rd point, it is just massive. 4th point certainly nice, but that 3rd point just basically makes it a single target Ravage that brings you back, like a single target vacuum, basically. But yeah, we're at 11 minutes in, and the gold lead, not insurmountable, but certainly worth mentioning. Virtus Pro has grinded themselves 2,000 up. The experience, much closer affair, still sitting at 3 digits, but Darkseer does manage to find himself a tower kill at top.
Very interesting use of wall, and it's ironic actually because that wall got him the kill. He didn't actually last hit himself. The Puck might have denied it had he actually gotten the other hit off. And oh, Shadowblade done on Hao.
Crazy, finding that out the hard way. Couple of swipes, 1 good vacuum. And TongFu finding their rhythm a little bit now. Storm Spirit still very much behind on nothing but treads and a talisman in a bottle. But at level 8, he at least can start working with his teammates. Now with all the damage output that Alchemist is going to have, I mean, not completely breaking the game or anything, but hitting for around 120 at this stage with the Shadowblade bonus damage, nothing to sneeze at. Virtus Pro in the meantime banging away on the tier 2 bottom. That's going to provoke TongFu. 3 come out in reaction. Doesn't look like they're going to over pursue those, so Virtus Pro I still feel like they've got their foot on the gas, but TongFu definitely trying at the very least to get their hands on the wheel.
I don't think they're really that far behind.
Yep.
I mean, the golden experience difference from the first couple of kills, TongFu are doing a really nice job at utilizing the map, and again, that ancient stack is there. Even though it was warded by VP, they're still going to kill this. And it's very difficult to contest this ancient in this position because you have to walk up a very small choke against a team that has a Darkseer, potentially a multiple hero concoction, and a Silencer, who is now level 6 by the way because they let him farm mid for a while. So now TongFu has basically reached the point where they can fight if they absolutely have to. And I do think that it would be to their advantage to make sure that they do defend this ancient stack and actually try to fight, because if they don't, they're giving away more gold. The one nice thing, though, is that they actually still have their tier 1 mid, which is very uncommon for us today, by the way. Usually by this point in the game, a team has lost their safe lane tower and their mid tower.
Yeah, it's by our trends, man. 13 minutes in, you're talking some tier 2s are beginning to evaporate the way these games have gone. We are going to see VP hook up as a foursome. That's a threesome +1 as the Infest is on. They're going to try to do it. Here we go. They're going to smoke right into it. Coil goes down, caught a couple. There's that silence. So vacuum wall, beautifully executed, and Virtus Pro caught with their hand in the cookie jar. Went for it in a big way. The only thing keeping this going is Illidan's damage output, but now he runs out of gas. Vortex back. That's going to be a 3-0 turnaround, a 6-1 game, quickly becoming a 6-5. And Virtus Pro, trying like hell to play that aggressive style, just ran into a very crowded part of an ancient area and paid the price for it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying, and why the Silencer picked so much, because you see the coil, and it's like, okay, you coil this, I global, you don't have any follow-up at all. And even with the Lifestealer actually not getting silenced there, because he went out of Infest, he couldn't do anything by himself.
Right.
He attacked Hao, which I get why you would go on Hao, because he's worth a lot if you kill him, but he's actually pretty darn tanky. He doesn't have a lot of armor, but he's got 1500 HP. So maybe not the best target. He might have been able to get a kill before the rest of his team died, and Prophet just wasn't even having it. He's like, yeah, I'm not even going to bother coming to that because you guys just smoked up into a choke, into a sentry, and ended up getting killed pretty badly. So huge turnaround here for TongFu. I honestly would say the longer the game goes, the more advantage I would give to TongFu just because of their sheer initiation potential and their ability to counter-initiate as well. Like, Global is the end-all, be-all, I'm going to counter you and there's nothing you can do about it unless you catch me. And let's be honest, because it's Global, Sansheng doesn't have to ever be by fights.
Absolutely. We can see Virtus Pro not willing to back off, though. And I like this. They're going to end up glimpsing back Mu. There's the Static Storm and the Kinetic Field. Mu trying to find a way out. Won't be able to do so. Now they're going to try to take the fight back under the tower. Another good vacuum. Brought two back. The re-engagement from Illidan as the rest of his team tries to fight it out. Virtus Pro getting back on the board and re-securing that lead. Gets a 3-0 turnaround of their own. This time, Kasai sure as hell showed up. Crazy. Kept himself alive just long enough. And that right there, and that's something worth mentioning, and this is almost always the case. Whenever you have that silencer pick, you are a slave to his cooldown timer. That's a totally different fight if his ult is off cooldown. And what it creates is this dynamic where Virtus Pro, if they take a fight and lose a fight, they're oftentimes going to be better grouping and trying to take another one immediately after with the knowledge that Silencer's ult will not be available. And definitely Sansheng lacking it there made a huge difference.
Yeah, even if the Static Storm had gotten off and there was a Global, there wouldn't have been enough follow-up damage to kill Mu. So it's really unfortunate that he keeps dying. He's 0-4, man. This is such a hard game for a Storm. Like, Disruptor and Puck with a 4-second Waning Rift and a Blink Dagger, if they initiate on you, you're pretty much dead. And the thing with Mu right now is that if he goes straight BKB, his team's not really going to have any damage. So he needs to go for an actual aggressive item, so he's going for that Orchid. He's got the Oblivion Staff for it. And How, in the meantime, actually dangerously close to a BKB himself, which is going to be great because then he can actually go into fights and not worry about getting immediately bursted down. And buying more time is going to help TongFu to an extent, but they need to have more control of the map because right now Virtus Pro are pretty much dictating all of the pace, and they're going to actually be able to push into the tier 1 here bottom, which is nice because ironically, there's no towers left mid to push for VP, so they kind of have to make the choice of defending the tier 1 bottom or trying to counter push top. So we'll see what the choice is going to be. Looks like right now they're actually just going to counter push instead because all 5 of TongFu are bottom, and VP are going to be more than happy to make this, I guess.
But top, we will see the counter push following the death of the tier 1 bottom at the hands of TongFu. Looks like VP is just happy to trade that away. And coming up on 20 minutes, this is the closest game we've had at this stage of the game all day long. The goal graph dipping down into the red for just a moment, but Virtus Pro regaining that lead. Now up to about 3,000. Again, not insurmountable, but certainly not inconsiderable. 1,500 experience going their way as well. BKB now done on Alchemist. Now, how with these 2 core items, he's going to be so much more willing to fight. They don't have a glyph, so this tier 2 will drop regardless. He's going to try to initiate, tosses out the Unstable Concoction. AA caught by it, and here we go! Global Silence, they're going to try to follow it up. AA is going to be the one who's eating most of the damage. They're going to try to reinitiate when the Silence comes off, and there it is. BKB's up, vacuum there, does nothing to a Lifestealer. Wall went down, and a little bit of damage done. Nice dodge with the Unstable Concoction by Crazy. Not going to be enough to keep him alive, but now Illidan sticking around the fights a little bit too long. And that's probably one criticism I could have of him. That's a 4-for-1 turnaround, Hal notching a triple kill in the process. There's one thing you can say that Illidan is doing that is really hurting his team. He's sometimes overstaying his welcome. Once the rage is gone, once he's spent in Fest, he's doing damage, he's almost bringing down heroes and occasionally chopping down a support. But by the time all's said and done, he doesn't need to be dying when a fight's already been lost. So nonetheless, another big turnaround, this time going the opposite direction. TongFu, we'll watch and see that graph update. Yeah, the experience certainly dipping way, way down, and the upward climb of the gold graph in favor of Virtus Pro brought to a screeching halt.
It's really troublesome because VP cannot do anything about that initiation. Like, if the Storm Ball's in and the Global's there, that hero is just going to die. There's nothing you can do for him. You can maybe get a Force Stab or something like that. It looks like there's a Courier Snipe inside of TongFu's base as KSI actually TPs back out, so very, very nicely done. But when they do that, you have to be ready. Like, you have to either have a mech or something like that, or have some way of helping out whoever they go on, or you're just submitting to 4v5.
Right.
And they went on our side right away. He didn't swap, he didn't stun, he just died. The Static Storm that came out from NS afterwards, he was pretty much at Death Star when he threw that, and they couldn't do anything. But, oh, Sandshake, getting caught.
Just caught out. It was a dual smoke, AA and NS, just kind of trolling around. Look at the sentry wards down, by the way. The amount of vision, both practical and impractical, with 3 sentry wards and 1 all-purpose ward in the enemy jungle. Virtus Pro, and again, this is what they need to be doing. That global silence still on cooldown for a little while, 15 seconds now, so we'll be back up if they force another fight. But I really like the fact that they're counterpunching as soon as they wipe the blood off their chin, losing these fights. Moo will be able to ball away. NS going to chase him up. He does get the glimpse back, and the kinetic field's there. However, just enough mana to hop back out. And a little extra damage to send him back home. They're going to end up taking a tower off of it, so certainly not a non-productive sequence of events.
It's a really interesting game to me because of the exchanges that are actually occurring. Mainly, it's like, it seems like TongFu is doing okay, but then you look at the map and you go, oh, they don't have any outer tier towers left.
Yep.
But the thing is, during fights, they seem pretty much unstoppable because there's no counter to their initiation. That's what makes Silencer such a ridiculously good pick in that situation. You can see that TongFu, they want to try to capitalize on it again. They have everything at their disposal, so they're going to try to go for a fight on VP's side of the map. It's really nice because if this fight goes well for them, their positioning is going to be so that they can just straight up push into somebody. But unfortunately, they walk right over a sentry and a ward that was actually giving vision. So they're going to know that they smoke up. But VP actually think that they're going inside of their woods. They don't even think they're doing Roshan. You can see everyone's backing. So this could be a really, really good Roshan sneak in from TongFu.
Doesn't look like it's going to be contested. Now it looks like they might be realizing it as we see Illidan making a charge out. He's being pinged out as well. And, yep, they're going to end up getting this for free. Very nice sequence of events. And Storm grabbing the Aegis, bouncing on out. And, yeah, Virtus Pro, that's definitely a smack your forehead kind of a moment. They saw it coming. They just were not equipped to deal with it.
Thank you.
Well, if they fought around the Roshan pit and the global was actually up, I'm not entirely sure if they would have won that fight anyway, but they're going to catch Moo regardless.
Well, he swapped him out. They're going to grab him one way or the other. Aegis gone. And Crazy with that haster and trying to get out of dodge. TongFu maybe looking to reinitiate and will. They're going to grab AA. There's going to be the global silence. Right off. Good vacuum. Got 2. Can they follow it up? Illidan with his rage on cooldown. Didn't even need it. Just moving quick. We will see Bane notch himself a kill with 1 well-placed brain sap. And now Hal just walks up by himself. Eating a lot of damage. There's the silence off of Crazy and a good coil. Going to catch him 4 of the team. They're going to try to follow it. Do they have the damage? Illidan there. Nope. He's going to end up dropping. That seems like some miscommunication to me. That was as good a coil and as good a waning rift as they could have asked for out of Crazy. There was just no follow-up. That's a triple kill now going the way of Banana. In the meantime, whoa, nice TP. Very nice. Hal TPing out with his BKB active. Able to just barely survive. An absolute slugfest. Both of these teams just landing haymaker after... Whoa, that's an item you don't see very often. Darkseer getting a BKB. That just stopped me in my tracks. Just don't see that happen all that often.
Well, if he gets Blink initiated on or the Static Storm is there, it's pretty much a guaranteed death for him. Like, he needs the BKB just to be able to get out of the coil, get out of the kinetic field, don't bathe in the Static Storm, and actually be able to use his spells. In this case, I think it's a necessity. It's not ideal for him, of course, but he already had the mech anyway. So he's got his 1 core item that his team desperately needs, and now he can actually use his abilities inside of a team fight. So I think it was something that King J was pretty much forced into. I think he would have much rather made something else. But the thing is, even if you get a pipe, you might be able to live through that combo, but you're not doing anything for a good 5, 6, 7 seconds.
Right.
Which is just way too much time that you're sat idle. So, TongFu, they managed to force a buyback out of Illidan, which is pretty big at this stage in the game, considering he's still not all that tanky. He's pretty much got the Armlet and the drums for tankiness, and then a Yasha for speed. But there's no more outer tier towers for VP to take, so they have to take this aggressive positioning on the map. They have to always make sure that they're taking away farm from TongFu, because Hao is getting to the point where he's pretty much got enough money for an AC soon. And that's when he starts to get really scary, because Lifestealer is not going to just shred him anymore.
Right. 11 to 12. 23 kills in a 25-minute game. Virtus Pro doing an excellent job of abusing the map control they've earned for themselves. They've lost 2 towers, but not a tower stands. at Tier 1 or Tier 2 for TongFu. And TongFu with a lineup that does generally want to play aggressive. They're a very tough team to crack, though. That's one thing that is going to be a problem for VP, and I think we're both in agreement. When you look at coming down the line, when you look at the way this match is very likely to play out once we get into the ultra late game, if we actually have a game go past 30 minutes, which finally it looks like we're going to. But I feel like they're going to be the ones who end up benefiting quite a bit. Doesn't mean that Virtus.pro will be out by any stretch at that point. It just feels like, you know, the power of an Alchemist and farming in the late game is just tremendous. You just cannot underestimate it. He's already working on his Assault Cuirass. He could buy his Hyperstone right now to go with his plate mail. So given how comfortable TongFu is going to be in the late game, the fact that they are such a tough team to crack, such a defensive team in all senses of the word, is really going to put Virtus.pro on watch here. They did a good job. They've now moved into their own jungle, vacating that side of the map. But yeah, there's the Assault Cuirass done fully. How is becoming a force.
Yeah, sooner or later they're going to have to try to figure out a way to potentially end this, because in a lot of games, when you have a Nature's Prophet, you can rely on split push to just be annoying, and this is an ideal situation for a Prophet in that there are no outer tier towers, which means you have the most room to work. But you also have a Storm on the other team with an Orchid who can pretty much just kill you from 100% to 0 without you being able to do anything. So it makes split pushing a lot harder. And even if you are able to teleport after the Orchid, there's a global on top of that. And if they want to, they can just spend stuff like that to force the rest of VP off of their side of the map and get some room back. But it looks like TongFu isn't feeling nearly as scared anymore. They're trying to bait Hao middle here. They have a smoke up behind him, and it should be fairly obvious to Virtus.pro. They're going to see a guy farming mid and no one else, and you can see the position at the top lane. It's pushed pretty much to TongFu's doorstep and nobody's farming it, so they're kind of like, yeah, this is probably not a good idea to go on him.
Pulling all the way back behind their Tier 1, TongFu moving up to the ridge line along the Ancients, still trying to bait out some movement, and Ines showed his face. There's the last word. Tossed out. Hal goes Hulk mode, and here we go. Crazy wants to go in. Jumped in, now jumped right back out. Did a little bit of damage with a bit of a silence, but still, Virtus.pro very loath to come in. And here we go. Global silence plus the jump on him. They managed to blow him up. AA next on the list. He's going to end up dead. No doubt about it. TongFu notching 2 kills. There's a coil that goes off. Illidan doing what work he can. Once again, left all by himself. This happens every fight. He's going to jump in crazy as a way to get away, but the Vortex doesn't have the mana. Doesn't have the mana for it. Phase shift, doesn't matter. Illidan jumps out at the last minute. He may get a kill on Banana and will, but he will end up dead himself. Hal? Well, maybe not. Hal doesn't have an unstable concoction, and we're going to see him blow a drum charge just to try and guarantee he gets away. So, for the first time in a while, a lost fight does not result with him being among the dead. Nonetheless, another nice win for TongFu. They get the tower and a few more kills.
Man, the coordination from TongFu is
good.
Pretty disgusting. I mean, every time they go in, it's the immediate global, and they either go for the Vengeful Spirit or they go for the Disruptor. Mainly because the Disruptor is such a huge deterrent in teamfights for heroes like the Darkseer, Bane even being able to Fiend Script somebody. If the Disruptor dies, the Bane's free to Fiend Script the Lifestealer, and there's really not much you can do about it. That's pretty much exactly what happened. Arsart died pretty much immediately after NS because of the target switch, and he didn't even have to Orchid the first target because the global was there. So it's just the use of abilities, the efficiency of the way that they actually go about getting kills is pretty darn fun to watch. And Virtus.pro are starting to realize, hey, we're losing these fights, we're kind of on the back foot. We need to actually get the jump while global is down.
Yep. They were doing a great job of that earlier, and I felt like they backed off of it. Now they're going to go for it. We go see King Jane. BK being. Not often you see that. Scythe of Ice He's going to vacuum 3 together. Now they might want to re-engage. Here we go. TongFu wants to chase them down. They're going to catch Ines again. Ines drops. Kasai on the run. AA on the run. Kasai will not be cleaned up. However, AA, no Shadow Blade in his inventory. That's another death added to the tally. Crazy threw the orb, but wisely did not jaunt to it. Lost fight. 3 more going the way of TongFu. And Virtus.pro beginning to come apart at the seams. And again, you made the point right before. Trying to engage when that global silence is not available. Still 10 seconds even on the cooldown now. But the window of opportunity when they could have been doing that and not allow TongFu to get in the position they're in. Look at the goal graph. Total turnaround at this point. TongFu, for the first time in about 15 minutes, has now crossed the middle line. The experience, however, beginning to get a bit out of control. Approaching 5-digit lead for the Chinese.
Well, honestly, that was a bit sloppy. by VP, the way they decided to engage that. It was very reckless. It was, we need to make something happen moment, and they just didn't really think it through. The puck didn't contribute much of anything to that, actually, but they might be able to catch Mu here, middle.
Mu cleaned up. Kasai getting some support there after his Scythe of Ice that time. And Kasai, I feel like Kasai has really been a bright spot for Virtus.pro. He's just such a good he's a good player in general, but on Prophet in particular, again, he's just always where he needs to be. His game sense is just one of the best I've seen in the West. But 13-18, the current score. Virtus.pro has to be feeling some urgency now. I mean, again, they're not down, they're not out of it by any stretch. The net worth is beginning to swing a bit out of control, though, with the Alchemist doing what an Alchemist does, just making $1 million gold an hour. Even the Prophet, unable to keep up with him, is down 20% in terms of pure net worth.
Yeah, and that's getting that stage where everyone is basically getting BKBs now.
Yep.
And heroes like Disruptor, heroes like Puck, they fall off really, really hard when that happens. So sooner or later, there's going to reach a critical mass where TongFu might not necessarily have the better late-game heroes. Like, late-game Prophet is very good still. Late-game Lifestealer is also very good. But keep in mind that Illidan is not building for the ultra late game. He's built pretty much completely for mid-game. And KSI, he has pretty much 2 completed items already. He's not going to get that much more farm. And the supports on VP just fall off much, much harder than TongFu's do. So I definitely give TongFu a pretty big edge here. So, and as soon as they start taking these fights again, they're going to be able to get tier 2s pretty easily after that, and because of the smoke timing, as soon as they get a kill, which it looks like they will on KSI, they can just turn around and do Roach, who's going to be up any second.
Scythe of Ice used right at the last second. Now they're going to try to pursue out a fight down here. They're going to toss it on to AAA. They got Illidan too. Illidan did not rage. They're going to get them both because of it. Major mistake there from Illidan. I didn't see if he had rage active or not, actually, so maybe it was on cooldown. But yeah, he got stunned with the AoE off of that, so instead of just 1 kill on a support, ends up being 2 kills and losing your carry, who's now down for 40 seconds, along with the Nature's Prophet. And TongFu has the run of the land. They're actually pulling back and just doing some vision control. Bet Roche is their destination.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them to just go ahead and kill the boss man, because everyone on the side of VP who really does anything at this point is dead.
Yeah.
The physical damage dealers are becoming more and more relied upon to actually make things happen, just because of the fact that, again, BKBs pretty much end the fun if you're VP. And I gotta give all the credit in the world to VP for playing the early game as well as they did, but it's now past the point of those heroes' usefulness. So, unless they get perfect initiation, I think TongFu is going to be pretty hard-pressed to lose a fight at this stage. This Bane has had a gem for, I want to say, the last like 12 or 13 minutes. They've been doing dewarding all over the place. The VP is blind, like completely blind at the moment. There's not even a ward on either of the supports, which means that they're pretty much going in without being able to see anything. They're looking for any opening they can possibly find, but something's got to give. I mean, the nice thing about positioning on TongFu's side of the map is that if they lose the fight, they're not going to immediately lose a tier 2. But the longer the game goes, the longer your resurrection timer is. So you're going to give more and more golden experience to TongFu, and eventually you're just going to get run over.
We're 33 minutes into this game, officially the longest game of the day. And a damn good one. It's been a real fun game to watch. A lot of back and forth. The gold, and anytime you see a gold graph go like this, and you know, it's not even just that it goes up and then down in these big strokes, but a lot of bumps along the way, just because a lot, you know, each team kind of digging deep and finding the kills and the wins whenever they needed them to keep this game alive. But yeah, Hal is kind of out of control, sitting at 20,000 net worth now. His GPM at 662. As they continue to roll, he's got a basher already. He's going to be able to, yeah, he's got 4,300 gold. So he's got his Abyssal, if that's the item he wants to go for. Of course, will be a great choice against the Lifestealers, so would imagine that's something he's going to want to try to pick up in the very near future. But you can just tell, I mean, Virtus.pro is beginning to spend all their time on their side of the map, and the few times they've ventured across in the last 15 minutes have really just been unmitigated disasters. In the meantime, TongFu has no problem crossing that river, and immediately Virtus.pro has to run hiding for the tier 2.
Yeah, and again, this is something that VP needed to take care of for this point in the game. So their supports getting shut down really bad. Oh, initiation on Hal.
Yep, there's the silence though. BKB's up all over it. Beautiful vacuum wall. They're going to mech through it and extend the fight. They're going to catch up with Kasai, however. BKB's absolutely everywhere, but it just doesn't matter. The right click coming out of the Alchemist, trying to chase down Crazy. Now he actually didn't jaunt. Buyback now out of the Prophet. Crazy. That was actually really funny what he just did. It was hard to follow with the camera. He threw the orb and they chased the orb and they just didn't jaunt away and turned around and ran the other way. But they're going to get the tier 2. This has been a great game for King J. Man has been on point with his vacuum wall, and it has been making a huge difference. Tier 2 down, now they're going for the tier 3 here in mid. Still 20 seconds till the LS can get back up. Going to imagine he doesn't have buyback, and of course he does not. That's going to be a free set of racks, and they're not done. Looks like Moo had something else in mind. They're actually going to turn and go after Crazy, who, you know, was doing what Crazy does, being crazy and out of position once in a while. There's the racks, and they're now doubling them up, make it 26-13, and a game that has been, for the most part, close. Seems like, yeah, I think we're past the close period.
TongFu played this so well. It's really easy to get overwhelmed by not having any towers left at around the 20-minute mark and getting overwhelmed by the fact that you can't actually go into your jungle anymore. But they took every single fight perfectly. Their coordination was right where it needed to be. Their team had a point in the game where they knew they were going to be stronger, and they just held out. That actually takes a pretty good amount of discipline, because some teams will get into these kind of moods where they're like, we don't want to just lose these towers, let's fight. But the thing is, TongFu didn't take those needless fights because they knew if they could make it to a point in the game where they had their Raxes still, that they would be fine against Virtus Pro's lineup, and that's pretty much what's been happening for the last 10 minutes or so. So all the credit in the world to TongFu again for doing a fantastic job of recovering this game. Hao has all of the money in the game, just all of it. And now the gem has actually been bought by Storm. So he's going to be able to deward pretty much anything. Not that they had anything anyway in terms of vision on their side of the map for a while, which is a bit strange. But Virtus Pro, last-ditch effort here with their smoke up. They're going to try to find somebody.
And they're going to try to engage the Alchemist. There's the global silence right off cooldown. Scythe of Ice. So nice Force Staff getting him out of the way. Good vacuum again. Caught 3 that time, and they can do nothing but die or run. Take your pick. Looks like NS is going to go for the former, and the GG's prompted. Great reaction, and that really has been the story of the game. Every single time Virtus Pro found some kind of an opening, every time they wanted to try and make something happen, TongFu just had the answer. And as you said, every tower down around 20-25 minutes, just able to maintain their calm, their composure, and ride it out to a 37-minute win. Virtus Pro, though, as you mentioned, don't want to take anything away from them. They came apart and got outplayed late, but I was impressed with the way they played early.
They had great movement. I mean, they did everything that they were supposed to do. The thing is, when Sansheng hit 6, everything went horrendously downhill because they started to realize that they were so reliant on being able to get the Disruptor and Vengeful Spirit spells off in a fight that if they didn't have them, they had nothing. Like, they just didn't have enough damage to kill anybody. So even with the Puck Coil, when they smoked up that choke point and it looked like there was potential for VP to get a kill, the great equalizer, honestly, this game was Silencer. I mean, he was 1-3, so not a spectacular score by any stretch, but his globals were perfect. Like, every single time. It was either he waited for the initiation and he used it straight afterwards to make sure there was no follow-up, or he just used it as initiation while the storm was going in. So, great communication overall by TongFu. Very well-deserved Game 1 victory. Looking forward to the next one.
Next one coming up in short order. Again, a 37-minute, 15-second game. 13-28, the final kill score, and the final GPM on that Alchemist. Hao amassing just a true Scrooge McDuck-esque pile of gold by the time all was said and done. 707, his final GPM. And TongFu continues to roll, continues to look good. Virtus Pro, though, they're going to want to put one in the win column. We'll find out if they can bounce back coming up in Game 2 next. I'm EC. That's Straskell. Stick with us, guys. We'll be right back.